The spread of the COVID-19 has had a disproportionate effect on low-income children and families right now, and it's bringing to light the need for really equity in education. We're talking about food insecurity, limited access to tech. Those are just two of the challenges.
Rey Saldaña, president and CEO of Communities in Schools, gives us his perspective on how at-risk students are impacted by the pandemic. Rey, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. And this is such a challenge for so many people, and especially so for people who are less fortunate, students who are less fortunate. So what do you do when these students are faced with school closures?
Yeah, what is starkly apparent to everybody who is working within schools, and Communities in Schools is an organization that places professionals in almost as, you know, we are paramedics because we can triage for the most immediate needs, but it just points to how important the physical place of school is as the intersection of where a student feels most safe, where they have their most predictable meal every day. And for students who are living on the edges of poverty and in low-income communities, we now have to get more creative than ever if we're going to do anything about those students who typically and their families are suffering in silence. So our organization is really stepping up in innovative ways around texts and Zoom. And in many ways, it is just, to be very honest, difficult to connect with these families because of the overcoming of gap of trust in a lot of these communities.
Which is unfortunate to hear. And, you know, we talked to a lot of educators, off camera, who seem to be scrambling right now to figure out what they're even going to do for fall and what it's even going to look like. So what needs to be done now to try and improve upon these educational inequities, because this pandemic is continuing?
Yeah, what I think we do is we learn from the circumstance, and we know that change is hard, but now it's going to be necessary with regard to this crisis. What I mean by that is not only do we recognize the digital divide that makes it difficult for us to provide equitable learning, it makes it difficult for us even just to connect with those families who we think are the most vulnerable of living in tight communities where there are budgets that are tight, that could be exposed to abuse or violence, both physical and emotional. And unpacking that when we come back to school is going to be just as important as taking the temperature of our students. And so the professionals at Communities in Schools and really all across our school districts should be implementing what's called integrated student supports. Those are those things around the student's classroom that are just as important for a student's success.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Rey Saldaña. We appreciated so much your input this morning.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a good day.
We still have to try to figure out what we're going to do in the coming months before we even head back to school.